There's one final Derby prep this weekend, and it's at Keeneland. So that's where capping the card is. Let's go 1 through 11 and go do the whole card. Salutations and welcome, friends. I'm your host of this episode of Capping the Card. My name is Matthew DeSantis, and you can find me on Twitter at the handle at Failed to Menace. Well, this is an exciting day to go to Capping the Card. We're almost through the Kentucky Derby prep season, but we have one final Kentucky Derby prep, and that is the Lexington Stakes, which is one of the two greatest stakes races on this Saturday's card at Keeneland. And so before we get into capping the card, just a quick reminder to press that subscribe button here on YouTube. We have so much content coming at you every single day here on Trust the Profits, whether it is graded stakes previews, capping the card, weekly race recaps, live betting, doubling down. We got it all. We're going to have barn tours coming up. We got great people from across the industry who are going to be coming onto our programs and sharing their advice as well and their expertise as we lead up to the Kentucky Derby. We don't want to miss all the stuff that we have. So if you're a domestic racing fan, if you're an international racing fan, we got something for you here at Trust the Profits. Make sure to throw me a follow on Twitter at the handle at Failed to Menace. It's the best way to keep up with all of my content and my musings about the industry of horse racing and my picks that I will give out on an occasional basis as well. And so we have a lot of great stuff. And if this is your first time tuning in to Capping the Card, thank you for joining us. And the title of the show should give it away, but if it's your first time, what we're going to do is we're going to go race 1 through 11. There's 11 races on Saturday's card at Keeneland. We're going to go race 1 through 11. I'm going to give you my top pick. I'm going to give you my top value play from each of the 11 races. We're going to try to do about 11 races in maybe about a half an hour. And so it's a quick way. If you have to really handicap the card that much, it's a quick way to get some information, give you some sense of where I'm leaning in some of these races. Maybe we try to fade the favorite. Maybe I try to give you some price plays. Should be a lot of fun. But that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's dive right in and let's go to race number 1 on Saturday at Keeneland. And that is going to be a $100,000 maiden special weight race going a mile and a 16th for 3-year-olds and up. And this one, I just said we're going to try to beat the chalk in some instances, and there's plenty of chances that I'm going to be doing that later in the card. But in the first race, I am going to use the favorite as my top pick, the number 7 Magical Power for Todd Pletcher with Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard. This is a horse that ran really well on debut, was the favorite that day down at Gulfstream Park going a mile, kind of made a move and got to the lead, and then just kind of ran out of steam a little bit. What you would expect maybe from a debut maiden runner. This is a good magic colt, and Pletcher, and really important statistic to point out, is going to be 27% second time out routing in maiden special weights on the dirt. So this fits into his wheelhouse in terms of getting these horses ready second time out on the dirt, going along. Very good strike rate for Pletcher. He and Ortiz Jr. have been having a very successful Keeneland meet. Irad already with 24% win rate at Keeneland so far, following up a very hot meet that he had, obviously, down at the championship meet at Gulfstream Park. I do like him a lot in this race. Now, there is another very low-priced favorite on the board, and that is the number 3 Oglethorpe at 9-5. I am going to fade that horse a little bit, getting the blinkers on. The speed figures look better, but it's important to point out the horse's debut was on a muddy, sealed track that was intended to be a turf race that was taken off, and his next 2 races were also on the turf. So this is really his first time trying a dry, fast track. Danny Gargan, his trainer, is only 3 for 26 over the last 5 years at Keeneland and actually 0 for 6 in maiden special weight races. So going to try to get past him. That leads me to my value play, which is the number 2 Covet for Bill Mott's barn, 6-1 on the morning line. You're not getting a huge amount of value here, but this is a horse I'd absolutely be using and maybe looking at as a win contender if you want to try to get past the 7. This is a horse also debuted on the turf at Gulfstream Park, going a mile and a 16th, had a really difficult start, bumped inside early, had to kind of get checked up a little bit, and then finally started to get going late. Here's the thing. This is a horse that if you look at the pedigree, this horse should like dirt more than it likes turf. Also, if you look from a siring standpoint, from a progeny standpoint, from a pedigree standpoint, this horse first time out was never going to fire. Always dreaming progeny, typically do not do well first time out. These are horses that need a little bit of time to run into shape. Quite frankly, Bill Mott's horses usually take a little bit of time to run into shape as well. But this is the one I think is going to like the distance, is going to like the pace setup. I think Oglethorpe's going to be, out up in front. I think the number 7, Magical Power, is going to be out up front. I even think a horse maybe like the 5, if the 5 draws into the race. Artwell, this horse is cross-entered with a race on Friday, but if that horse ends up going in, could be forwardly placed. So Covet could sit the right type of a trip and have something to run into at the end. The horse has been training nicely since coming back from that maiden effort on the turf, and you already had a next out winner actually from that race. So it just shows the caliber of horse this horse ran against first time out. So that's where I'm going to be going in race number 1 at Keeneland. I'm so used to doing Gulfstream. It's like automatic in my brain these days. All right, well, let's go to race number 2, which is a $50,000 maiden claimer going 6 furlongs on the dirt for 3-year-olds and up. And this is one where I am going to look past the favorite a little bit. And the favorite in this race is number 6, Please Be Kind, 8 to 5 on the morning line. This is a horse that's had 14 bites at the apple. I just can't get behind the 15th bite at the apple, if you know what I mean. You're 0 for 14. I understand this horse is dropping down a little bit in class, but this horse has dropped down in the maiden claiming circuits before and not gotten the job done. So willing to try to beat this horse in this spot. It's just hard for me to take this price. Therefore, I'm going to go to the number 2, Zippin' Pippin. Great name. 7 to 2 in the morning line for trainer Jason Barkley with Adam Bashiza aboard. This is a horse that actually almost broke its maiden in a maiden claimer first time out. And then they actually stepped this horse up into state restricted maiden special weights races down at the fairgrounds and some restricted races actually at Oak Lawn Park as well. And the horse ran decent enough, ran behind some nice other horses, particularly last time out at Oak Lawn Park, ran behind a horse, Donnie, who I thought was pretty nice that day. And, now changes barn, goes from Lon Wiggins over to Barkley. Barkley, I think, is pretty smart on the claim. Like I said, this horse has shown some speed, some tactical ability here. I'm going to take a little bit of a shot, Zippin' Pippin at 7 to 2. Quite frankly, there's not a ton else in this field. And so, you get past the first and second choice, and it's kind of slim pickings. So there is absolutely, I think, a price to be had when you start looking at things. I'll say this: the number 10 horse, Kate's Concerto, 6 to 1 on the morning line. I think a lot of people are going to look at that horse coming out of the Brad Cox barn, now running for Ted Lucas. My concern is this horse should have won last time out. Got dropped all the way down to a $10,000, $15,000 maiden claimer and came up short and got beat at the end. And went off as the overwhelming favorite that day. If you can't get it done at that level, now you're running against slightly better company at Keeneland. I'm willing to try to get past this one. Therefore, my long shot and my value play is a really big price, which is Sinners Saints. Great name, I think, as well, for Anamea with Louis Saez aboard. And quite frankly, Louis Saez is just the man right now. I mean, I've seen him win some of these races at Keeneland. He's just out finishing people. This is a horse that, yes, admittedly, if you look at the previous efforts, has not really shown much, but it's also been on the turf, and this horse has faded absolutely late. If you're looking for negatives, Anamea is a whopping 0 for 32 after the trainer switch. Not great. But those are the negatives. Here's the positives. The last work was incredibly solid over the Keeneland dirt. 59 and 4, 5 furlong work. This horse, I think, is much better on the dirt. And when you look at the pedigree, it would certainly suggest that. Frosted up top and is a half to grade 1 winner, Iotapa, and stakes winner and graded stakes placed horse, Saintly Joan. Both on the dirt. I think this horse was just on the wrong surface. I think you're going to see a big perk up on the dirt. The other thing is this horse has been running in maiden special weight turf races out at Santa Anita, and so is now coming east on the dirt. A lot of switches going on here, a little bit of a makeover package. 15 to 1 on the morning line. I'll gladly take that and use this horse underneath at a big price. Well, let's move to race number 3, which is a $120,000 allowance going a mile and a 16th on the turf. And I just want to say it's nice to see races on turf that look like turf, that act like turf. It's wonderful. And so this is a race where, listen, the favorite in this race is going to be a Portfolio Company, but I'm going to try to get around that horse a little bit here. And I'm going to go to the number 3, which is James Aloysius. And this is another one that I really like. Now, I know I just gave you some stats about Danny Gargan, a little bit better on the turf, a little bit better outside of maiden special weights at Keeneland, and you get Louis Saez up on the mount. Here's what I really like about this horse. This horse goes into debut effort against Portfolio Company at Saratoga, finishes second by less than a length that day, then goes to the bench for 8 months, comes back April in 22, wins that maiden special weights race over some next out winners as well, going 7.5 furlongs at Gulfstream Park, then takes another, get this, takes another almost year off, 11 months off, comes back and wins a $25,000 optional claimer on the turf. This horse is finally putting together back-to-back performances. The horse has put in 2 nice works since that last race. This horse seems to finally be healthy, pointed in the right direction. I think at 4-1, you're getting a little bit more of a price, obviously, than Portfolio Company, who's 8-5. I'll gladly use the number 3, James Aloysius, in this sort of a spot. I like this horse quite a bit up top in race number 3. Now, in terms of my value play, I'm going to go to the far outside. I'm going to go to a Mike Maker horse, and I'm going to go to Eyes on Target. 8-1 the morning line for Mike Maker with Flavian Prat aboard. You get a big jockey upgrade, in my opinion, here. This horse has attracted money in the past and is actually 5 for 8 in the money at this distance. The works are incredibly solid. Second back from a little bit of a layoff. I think the last time out was a little bit more of a leg stretcher, quite frankly, kind of ran in place, didn't make up a lot of ground. Now I think is coming back. I think this is kind of the meat that Maker usually is, I think, targeting for this particular horse, who has run at Keeneland before and has won at Keeneland before, actually, in an allowance 50,000 starter. But still, that was a day that horse went off as the favorite and won that race, posting an 86 Beyer speed figure. This horse has some big races to run back to for sure. So I'm willing to kind of draw a line through that last time out. Like I said, coming off the bench, I think you're going to see a much better effort this time out. You get Pratt up on the mount as well. He's been lights out at this Keeneland meet so far. Limited opportunities, but 5 for 8 in the money, 4 for 8, 50% in the exacta. So I'm going to use Eyes on Target underneath in this particular race. Obviously, probably will be sprinkling Portfolio Company in some vertical exotics well, but I think you can get past a Portfolio Company a little bit here, try to go price hunting a little bit. I don't think this is a single and move on for this particular race. Well, let's move to race number 4 on the card, which is a $30,000 claiming race going 6.5 furlongs, and we're back on the dirt. And this is for 3-year-olds and up. And listen, I like ESPN segments as much as the next person. And if you watched NFL Primetime, NFL Countdown, you know that there's a great segment called Come On, Man, where Randy Moss and Chris Carter and all the guys do their come on, man, about some play that didn't make any sense. Well, come on, man, I actually really like in this particular race a lot for Jonathan Wong. This is a horse that is going to the dirt for the first time in a while, but this horse has some nice races on the dirt to run back to. Ran, I thought, a pretty strong effort at Del Mar in a $80,000 optional claimer, actually, way back against CZ Rocket and Apprehend and Diamond Oops. I mean, this horse ran against some really good company at one point, then has gone to the turf and the synthetic at Golden Gate. Now Wong is bringing this horse to Keeneland. Here's the thing. This horse is absolutely dropping in class, and I think what Wong is hoping for is to hit kind of a daily double. I hope that he's hoping to get the win and to get the claiming money. And so trying to maybe get, double up on the investment here for a horse that he's had for a little bit of time. And here's the thing. Wong is actually 33% over the last year shipping into Keeneland. He's obviously been moving his operation here, but he's had some success bringing these horses in from Golden Gate and Santa Anita over here to Keeneland. Like I said, this horse has worked out very nicely and registered a 1:02 5 furlong work on April 8th, which was 3rd out of 43 over the Keeneland turf, or over the Keeneland dirt, I should say. This is a wind-starred farm bred horse. 3-1 on the morning line. I'll take a shot with this one rather than the morning line favorite Implementation for Wesley Ward, who's coming off of a very long layoff. And so I'm a little skeptical about that and willing to try to get past that favorite. Going to use Come On Man as my top pick in race number 4. Now, for my value play, going to go to the number 4 horse, Magnolia Midnight. I'll be honest, there's not a lot else in this race. You get past Come On Man, you get past Implementation, you get past the number 8 Courthouse Cove at 4-1, who I think is also a legitimate threat. There's not a lot else. And, you look at a horse maybe like Go Yoshka, the number 2 horse, maybe has a good race in her and maybe could hit something. You look at the number 5 horse, Wellman, maybe it's a little bit of a step up in class. Eric Reed doesn't really have a very good record at Keeneland, so concern there. I ultimately ended up on Magnolia Midnight, 6-1 on the morning line. This horse has the least amount of questions, has been running some nice speed figures the last couple of times out. Ray Lou's on the horse again. The horse did disappoint last time out. No two ways about it. Went off as the pretty strong favorite in that particular race. I think went off at 6-5, ended up finishing 4th. But there is talent there. This horse has run against much tougher competition in the past, has run up against horses like Conager, has run against horses like Gunite and Old Homestead. So this horse has run up against much, much better competition. Even horses recently like Pro Occident, much better than the company that he's going to be facing today. So I think another class drop is going to help. This field came up, I think, a little bit stronger than they might have anticipated, but willing to give this one a shot at 6-1. We'll probably be using this horse underneath. Don't necessarily view him as a win threat in this particular spot. Well, let's move to race number 5 on the card, which is back on the turf. Allowance, 110,000 and for a mile and an eighth for 3-year-olds. And I'm going to go with the number 4 horse, Emperor's Appeal. And this is a horse that was Triple Crown nominated, actually. And for Brian Lynch, Adam Bashiz is up on the mount. And this is a really interesting horse. I mean, this horse has run up against Tapit Trice. This horse has run up against some other kind of big name, Prairie Dunes and Laver, some nice other horses. And all of a sudden decides to go to the turf after losing to Tapit Trice in that big optional claimer down at Gulfstream Park. Goes to the turf in a $75,000 optional claimer and runs a heck of a race, finishes 3rd to a horse that I think a lot of horse racing fans are familiar with, Far Bridge. Now, Far Bridge is a horse that a lot of people think is an absolute monster on the turf. This horse only lost by 3.5 lengths to Far Bridge and was right there for second place with the other horse, Harry Time. I love playing horses that perk up on a new surface. You guys know that. You're giving me 9-2. I will gladly take that price on Emperor's Appeal, a horse that I think is only going to progress. Second time out, stepping up a little bit in class, perked up on the surface. Absolutely love it. Some of the turf works at Gulfstream Park are very solid. Love the competition this horse lost to last time out. Second time getting Lasix as well. Expect this horse to continue to improve. Now, for my value play, I'm going to go to another horse that had a little bit of a perk up as well 2 out ago, and that is the number 6, Baby Billy, a 10-1 in the morning line. This is another Triple Crown nominated horse. So there were some expectations at one point. Then the horse broke its maiden finally on the Gulfstream Park turf. Chantel Sutherland rode that day. That horse got Lasix for the first time that day. The horse is getting Lasix again now. Blinkers are coming off, which is actually a halfway decent move for Sisterson. And this horse last time out went to the Jeff Ruby. This horse just was outclassed. I mean, so went to from a maiden special weight on the turf at Gulfstream Park to running in the Jeff Ruby Stakes, a grade 3 against Two Phils and Major Dude and Fantastic again, a really good field, and was just outclassed. And I'm not going to hold that against this horse. This horse gets back on, I think, its best surface, which is the turf, and it gets against, continues to run against company that I think this horse is familiar with. I like this horse a lot. I think a horse like Escapologist is also a little bit interesting. The number 7 horse at 12-1, very similar trajectory. Horse kind of perked up on the turf, then went to the Jeff Ruby, was outclassed, and now is coming back. So those two are horses that I really like using underneath. And here's the other thing. There's going to be a fair amount of pace in this race as well. So that's why Emperor's Appeal is a horse that can sit off the pace a little bit. Again, Baby Billy, Escapologist, both horses are going to be sitting off the pace a little bit. I like both of them in this spot. So that's where I'm going to be going in race number 5. Let's go to race number 6, which is a maiden special weight and $100,000, 6 furlongs for 3-year-old fillies. And this is one where I really like the Brendan Walsh barn on Saturday. And let me say, if anybody follows racing and particularly Keeneland, you know that the Walsh barn is really hot, really cold. It can be really streaky. Right now, they're really hot, and it feels like the time you want to start cashing tickets on Brendan Walsh's barn. So I'm going to ultimately go with the number 2, Nikki MP. And this is one where, again, I'm trying to get past the favorites. The number 9, Scylla. That's a horse that, for Bill Mott, only 10% winners first time out. The dam's 0 for 2 with first time starters. Willing to try to get past that one. Asmussen has a horse in this race, the number 10, Zetlos. 7-2 on the morning line. This horse hasn't run since September 16th. Shout out to my dad. That's his birthday. But I'm willing to try to get past those two. And so because of that, I think Nikki MP makes a lot of sense. This horse had legitimate trouble first time out at Gulfstream Park. Really had to get checked up and got bumped around and still rallied, I think, for a really respectable fourth. The winner that day was 6.5 lengths clear of everybody else. This is a hot barn, like I said, that's heating up. I think if you can get past the top 2, Nikki MP makes a lot of sense, and there's really not a lot else threatening this horse, in my opinion, if you can get past the other 2. So I really like Nikki MP at 9-2 on the morning line. One of my stronger opinions of the day. Now, in terms of the value play, I will go with the number 4, Pick Me Girl, at 15-1, a really big price. Listen, this horse isn't supposed to be this good, but this horse ran halfway decent on debut, finished 3rd on the synthetic at Turfway Park, is now shipping in. I do like that synthetic to dirt angle from Turfway to Keeneland quite a bit. Here's the thing. This horse ran behind a Paulo Lobo horse, who was the ultimate winner that day, as well as a first-time out Brad Cox horse, who was the overwhelming favorite. And this horse finished 3rd in an 11-horse field by 3.5 lengths. This was not a bad effort by any stretch. Can this horse continue to take a move forward? I think so. I'm willing to find out at 15-1. We'll probably be using this horse underneath. I don't necessarily think this horse can win, but I think this horse has a good race in her, and I'm willing to find out. So there's also a little bit of decent sprint pedigree that when you dig in, the pedigree is not overwhelming, but both the sire and the dam have really solid sprint offspring. Makes a lot of sense here. I think Pick Me Girl at 15-1, absolutely going to add some value on some vertical tickets. Let's go into race number 7, which is the start of the late pick 5. And this is one that is a $110,000 allowance going a mile and a 16th for 4-year-olds and up. And I'm going to go with a horse. First, let me say I'm fading Barber Road. We just need to get that out there. Do I like Barber Road? Yes. Do I like Braylu Gutierrez? Maybe more than any jockey out there. Do I like John Ortiz? I very much so like all of these people. Do I like Barber Road as an animal? I love Barber Road as an animal. He seems like a really hard trying horse. Am I ever going to bet Barber Road to win? No, I am not. I am going to let Barber Road beat me. And when he beats me, I will congratulate him, but I just can't bet on this horse. And so therefore I'm going to go to the number 4 horse, Principe de Oro, for Todd Pletcher with Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard. Not a bad second option, fallback option to go to. Listen, this horse has some similar running lines to a horse I talked about earlier in terms of James Aloysius. This is a horse that actually started career on the turf. Then Pletcher takes the horse, goes on the bench for 4 months, comes back, runs in the dirt, breaks its maiden easily by 3 3/4 lengths at Aqueduct, then takes 10 months off, comes back, and runs a leg stretcher basically in a $25,000 optional claimer and finishes 3rd that day, despite being the betting line favorite. Now this horse is able to stack up 2 races in a row against each other. Again, Pletcher 27% second time out dirt routing. That is an incredible statistic and a very high hit rate for someone. Like I said, second time out after that long of a layoff, he tends to really excel that second time. First time is a little bit more of just for conditioning and fitness. I think this horse is primed to run a big race. This horse is going to be on the lead, should be the controlling pace. I know people are going to say maybe Barber Road sends it from the inside rail, maybe, but I think Principe de Oro is just straight up faster. So I think I'm going to use the Principe de Oro 6-1 in the morning line. You're getting a little bit more value there. That's where I'm going to go with my top pick. In terms of my value play, it's interesting. The number 7 horse is really interesting at 9-2. I didn't really consider that a value play, but Tepiu, I think for Brendan Walsh with Johnny Velasquez aboard, I really do like that horse quite a bit. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a bigger price, and that's the other, the other Brendan Walsh horse, which is Crump, the number 6 horse, 8-1 on the morning line with Jose Ortiz aboard. Here's why I like this horse. Just consistent. 4 for 5 in the money at this distance. 7 for 12 in the money overall. This horse just runs its race every single time out, whether it's at Fairgrounds, whether it's at Turfway Park, whether it's at Churchill Downs. This horse just kind of runs its race every single time and has run up against excellent horses in the past. You look at who this horse lost to back when this horse was running in the maiden ranks. Horses run against Ducal, Milliken, Cody's Wish. And this horse has run up against some really, really nice horses. Like I said, was just maybe not quite good enough. Even 2 out ago was running against a horse like Brigadier General in Guntown, who won next time out. This horse is ascending, continues to get better. I think you can toss the two efforts on the synthetic, but otherwise, this horse kind of fits in this spot. I think 8-1 is an honest price you're getting on a horse that I think has a good chance to finish underneath. Would use this horse in some vertical exotics. In addition to, obviously, I think Barber Road's going to run his race. I do think the 7 might have a chance to run his race as well, but I think Crump at a little bit more of a price could give you a little bit more of, payoff at the end of the day. Well, let's go to the number 8 race on the card, which is the Giant Causeway Stakes. And this is a listed stakes race for $250,000. And we are going 5.5 furlongs on the turf for 3-year-olds and up that are fillies and mares. And my top pick is number 4, Au revoir. Au revoir for Chris Block with Jareth Loveberry, 9-2 in the morning line. Why do I like this horse? This horse is a perfect 4 for 4 winning at 5.5 furlongs. This horse is on a massive win streak. I believe has won 9 of his last 10 and is just on a roll. And this horse can sit whatever trip you need him to sit. And I just love the capacity this horse has, can win on the lead, can win sitting off the lead, has even shown the ability to really close from deep, actually. Didn't ultimately get there that one day, but was like sitting 9th one time in a stakes race, ended up finishing 3rd. So this horse has some different gears to it. I think it's one you got to take seriously. The speed figures are continuing to prove this horse runs on the dirt as well. So it's super versatile. Like I said, the last 5 times out were all victories. 3 of those were on the dirt. 2 of those were on the turf. They were all stakes races. I'm sorry, 4 of the 5 were stakes races. And the last 3 were all open company stakes races in terms of not being a state restricted race. So this is kind of the level this horse is at, 9-2. I'm going to take a shot here. Part of it is because Star Divine is coming off a really long layoff, the number 12 horse for Jorge Abreu. That's a horse I do like quite a bit, but coming off a long layoff. The other thing is Twilight Gleaming, the Wesley Ward horse. I know a lot of people are going to key on her. Understandable, but notice at 5.5 furlongs, 0 for 2 winning. She's really good at 5. At 5.5, doesn't quite work out. Seems to get tired at the end. So that's why I'm going to fade Twilight Gleaming here. Ultimately, where did I go in terms of a price? I went to the number 11 horse, Little Jewel, 8-1 on the morning line for Carlo Vacareza and Javier Castellano. Is a horse that has ascending speed figures every single time out on the turf. Goes 63, then takes, listen to this, 2.5 years off. Comes back in January 2023, runs another race 69, runs another race 82, breaks its maiden finally, then steps up to a listed stakes race, wins that, and records an 88 buyer. Now, here's the thing. This horse has typically only been running 5 furlongs. I don't think the stretch out is a problem because the horse comes from off the pace, doesn't need the lead. Actually, usually likes to sit 3rd, 4th, 5th, even as far back as 6th, and then make a run. So to me, the 5.5 furlongs is no problem. Little Jewel, 8-1 on the morning line. I'll use that horse. And Au revoir up top. Really like that combination. Well, let's go to the Kentucky Derby prep race, the Lexington Stakes, which is, of course, a 1.16 miles on the dirt for 3-year-olds. And this is the last chance to earn some Kentucky Derby points. 20 points goes to the winner. 8 points goes to second. 3rd points goes to, 28, 6, 4, 2 is the way it goes from 1st to 5th. Now, the only horse that really applies to is Disarm, the Steve Asmussen horse, who's sitting at 40 points for the Kentucky Derby right now after a second in the Louisiana Derby. That was only 3 weeks ago, that race. I'm a little worried about the tight turnaround. Also aware that Disarm only needs to finish 3rd or better. Does not need to win this race. 3rd or better, and he's in the starting gate of the Kentucky Derby. Therefore, I'm going to go past him because I'm not sure he's ready to roll, and I'm not sure Asmussen wants him ready to roll necessarily. And so I don't think he's fully cranked up in this field. First Mission is a nice horse for Brad Cox that couldn't beat his other horse, Bishop's Bay, first time out. Is coming off Lasix. Did have a very nice trip last time, no doubt about it. And so there is something to like there. Demolition Duke, another Brad Cox horse at a little bit more of a price, is another intriguing one, I think, as well. But I ultimately went to Empire Strikes Fast, 4-1 for Bill Mott with Frankie Dettori aboard. Can't really go wrong with that. This is a horse that recorded a 92 buyer on debut. Now, that was on Lasix, but listen, Mott is 17% switching off Lasix, which is a perfectly good number. And this is a horse that beat Dreamlike. Who is Dreamlike? Dreamlike's the horse that went off as the second choice in the Wood Memorial and finished at a photo for the win, basically. First, second, third were all right there in a photo finish together. So the horse that Empire Strikes Fast beat comes back to almost win a Grade 2 Wood Memorial next time out. I think at 4-1, you're getting a little something there. I like this horse. Ran a nice 5 furlong bullet last time out. And while it would be another upset for sure, this was a horse I just feel like that surprised everyone. This isn't a Triple Crown nominated horse. This is a horse that from a pedigree standpoint does not give off a lot of vibes that this horse would be a huge precocious horse first time out. This horse ran a monster race first time out. Here's what I really love. Dreamlike drew up right next to Empire Strikes Fast in the home stretch of that race. And Empire Strikes Fast said, "You're not getting by me," and dug in and ended up pulling away from Dreamlike. It's one of the reasons I actually faded Dreamlike in the Wood Memorial, but this is a race where I just really like Empire Strikes Fast. I think Bill Mott's got a good one on his hands. I think he didn't even realize how good of one he had on his hands. And this is a really logical spot for him to go into. And maybe this is a horse that we start seeing later this summer at Saratoga. But that's where I'm going to go with my top pick. My value play in this one, absolutely love this horse. Prairie Hawk at 15-1. Are you kidding me? I will take every cent of that. Thank you very, very much. For Saffie Joseph Jr. with Johnny Velasquez aboard. This is a horse that will absolutely benefit from an early speed up front. This horse can sit a little bit and then make a little bit of a charge. And I'm going to say words that I never thought I was going to say, friends. The Tampa Bay Derby has come back strong. Tapit Trice, the winner of the Tampa Bay Derby, comes back to win the Bluegrass Stakes. Lord Miles, the 5th place horse who Prairie Hawk beat in the Tampa Bay Derby, comes back to win the Wood Memorial. Zydeco, who finishes 9th that day in the Tampa Bay Derby, comes back to win a listed stakes race sprinting. This has come back live. And I didn't necessarily see that coming at the time, but Prairie Hawk was a horse that had legitimate issues in that Sam F. Davis, came back, ran, I thought, a perfectly respectable 4th place in the Tampa Bay Derby. It's logical this horse takes another step forward. 15-1 on the morning line. I'm willing to use this horse. I think this horse actually has a chance to potentially win. I don't view Arabian Lion, Bob Baffert's horse, as a legitimate win threat. Baffert is 0-9 in the last 5 years at Keeneland in graded stakes races off Lasix. It's not Santa Anita, folks. When he comes here, he doesn't win the way he does in Southern California. Here's the other thing. I just think Arabian Lion's a sprint horse. I mentioned some of the others, the very good horses. I just don't know how cranked up this arm really is. First Mission and Demolition Duke, I think, are both interesting. But ultimately, I'm going to go with Empire Strikes Fast and Prairie Hawk as my top 2 in the Lexington Stakes. Well, let's go to the Jenny Wiley Stakes, which I think for a lot of people is going to be a single and move on in Italian. Obviously, the very, very talented Chad Brown mare is going to be a lot of people's top pick in this race. And listen, I'm not going to argue with you if you want to make that pick in this particular grade 1. She's answered the bell every single time out. Super impressive mare. Loved her 4-year-old campaign. Just incredibly impressive filly, and like her so much. But she is coming off a little bit of a layoff. Has not run since that big Breeders' Cup effort, second only to Tuesday that day. Gets Irad Ortiz Jr. back aboard after Joel Rosario rode this horse the last 3 times out. Here's the thing. I'm a little worried about the layoff. Some of Chad's horses have not necessarily been firing that great off the layoff lately. And so I'm a little concerned about that and willing to try to kind of play against it. I also have a feeling there might be a little bit more front end company in this particular race. I think some other horses maybe want to be forwardly placed, might put a little bit more pressure. We'll see, a horse like Queen Goddess could potentially apply a little bit of pressure up top. And like I said, that could just make things a little bit more complicated. Even a horse like Freedom Speaks, who's a long shot, is cross-entered, or no, I'm sorry, not cross-entered, but is a horse that does also like to be pretty forwardly placed, has some nice early speed. So we'll see. Ultimately, this led me to my top pick, which is the number 5 horse With the Moonlight. Listen, I'm a sucker for a Charlie Appleby William Buick combination. If you're going to give me 5-2 in the morning line for a filly sired by Frankel, I'm going to go all the way on this with a dam out of Debawi. So, come on. I'm absolutely going to be using this horse. This is a horse I think is just getting better. Went over to Maidan, crushed 2 Group 2 races over in Maidan, and is now coming back over here. Last summer ran very well, lost to McCulloch barely in the Belmont Oaks, won the Saratoga Oaks, and then barely lost the Lake Placid at Saratoga. So this horse had some really strong efforts. This horse really does not run bad efforts, other than maybe you could say the Epsom Oaks back in last June. But I just think this, again, if you give me Appleby and Buick, when they come over here, they don't screw around. They're winning 60% of the time. Now, some of that is just because the Euros are just better, but I'm going to use this horse who I think has really genuinely improved the last couple of times out. I think is better now as a 4-year-old than she was as a 3-year-old. So that's my top pick. My value play is going to be the number 9, White Frost. Love using this horse underneath. There's another Bill Mott horse with Frankie Dettori aboard. This horse will make a huge run late. But here's the thing. This horse can show some tactical speed. I also love this horse had another super long layoff, 14-month layoff from November of 2021 to January of 2023. This is now third back from that super long layoff. This horse almost won the Grade 3 Honey Fox last time out. And I just think this horse is only going to continue to get better as she gets back into racing shape. Love the Candy Ride progeny there. And like I said, I think that this is a really good spot for White Frost to come in underneath in this particular race, making that big run. Dettori's been very good about getting speed out of horses. Really like this one in the 10th race. Well, let's go to the final race on the card. I promised you we got to get this done in about 30 minutes. I lied. It's going to be about 40, but it's pretty close. And so where am I going to go in this last race? Well, I'm going to go with the favorite. We've been trying to fade the favorite. A few of these races get past some chalk, but it's been very chalky at Keeneland in general. So we'll fingers crossed that we can reverse some fortune this Saturday. But I'm going to go, to the number 12 horse Tarabi for Cherie DeVaux, coming off a long layoff. But here's the thing. Cherie DeVaux is one of the best coming off a layoff, as winning at a 25% clip with a $3.72 ROI, coming off a 180 plus day layoff. So absolutely like that. And Tarabi's a horse that's demonstrated she can run off of a layoff as well, has run well off layoffs repeatedly. So she can fire. She's run up against much better competition. If she doesn't run up against Echo Zulu in a few spots, we probably think of her quite differently as a horse. She just runs super honest, has never been out of the trifecta. Granted, has only had 3 wins, but has also finished second to Echo Zulu twice as well. So I just think she's kind of caught the class. I think there's going to be some speed in this race. I think a few horses are going to want to go out. I think the number 7 is going to want to go out and be pretty aggressive. I'd imagine the number 2 is going to want to go out and be pretty aggressive on the front end. So I think there's going to be a little bit of pace. I think the 4 is going to be forwardly placed. I think the 5 might be forwardly placed. So there's a few horses that are going to be up there pretty close. Tarabi from the far outside of Luis Saez, I think he gets this horse in the perfect position, sits off, and then launches late. Really like Tarabi here in the last race. Now, my value play is going to be the number 9, and that is My Kentucky Girl. This is a horse that has its best ever effort was at Keeneland on the dirt sprinting. And this is another Jonathan Wong horse. This horse getting the blinkers put on. This horse does have a tendency to fall behind early. So I think the blinkers on, it's going to make a big difference here. I really like that. This horse is second back from a layoff. Last time out was on the synthetic, had a really rough start. I think you can scratch what happened at Parks in the slop. I think you can scratch what happened at Turfway Parks. Turfway Park, I should say, last time out because of the bad start. And the horse still ended up running on for third place, actually, in a field out of 11. But you look at what this horse was doing before that, this horse absolutely fits in this particular spot. So I think that My Kentucky Girl at 10-1 in the morning line, I'll gladly use this horse underneath the progeny of American Pharaoh. Well, that is going to wrap it up. We got through races 1 through 11, about 40 minutes. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Capping the Card. Like I said, make sure to press that subscribe button. Give me a follow on Twitter at the handle at Fail to Menace. Well, until next time, friends, my name is Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great and profitable day at the races and reminding you that it's now post time.